when you look at the pervasiveness of mobile devices, as we said at the beginning, 2010, which was a while ago, a lifetime ago for many of us, was the first time smartphones and tablets outpaced PCs. And so if you, in terms of sales, and if you think about within the enterprise, and the number of these devices that are either being purchased by the enterprise or being brought into work, either known or unknown, it's not impossible to imagine that mobile devices are quickly becoming the primary fabric of the enterprise computing experience. If it's not already an end user's primary computing surface, it likely will be, or some version of it, a tablet or a hybrid. What we compute on day to day is changing very quickly. When we look at the consumer space, specifically for phones, and this is specific, I'll be very clear, this is specifically for phones. It's very clear that Android has done incredibly well in the market. iPhone has also done incredibly well. When we look at the enterprise, and this data is really from our own mobility index, we put out a report every quarter where we actually report out what users are actually activating behind the firewall. You almost see an inversion, right? You almost see that iOS has been much stronger within the enterprise, and Android hasn't yet seen that aggressive growth that we've seen in the consumer space. We believe that that's a fact that's in the process of changing, but one of the companies that has been investing significantly in moving that change, getting companies more comfortable with Android, really is Samsung. So we've made a number of announcements with Samsung, and so to join me on stage here today, I'd like to invite Shin, who's the vice president of the Knox Business Group, to come up and talk a little bit about Samsung. Yeah, watch the hole. Mind the gap, right? Isn't that what you say in the UK? Mind the gap on the stage.
Mind the gap.
Yeah.
I got it.
All right, so, that picture, slightly controversial, but why do you think that Android hasn't taken off in the enterprise as much as we've seen iOS take off?
I think, in the beginning, Android was perceived as didn't have the security, right? So Samsung actually took upon ourselves to really strengthen the platform. And Samsung, by and large, don't make enterprise devices versus consumer devices. We make consumer devices enterprise ready. And that's why with the BYOD coming up really well, in the enterprise space, Samsung has taken a really big market share in there as well. I think having that consumer experience and the security and working hard to harden the device so that solution partners can build on top of it is giving us the edge right now.
And so you mentioned the BYO and the sort of the consumerization. So do you believe that long-term the consumer trends and the enterprise trends come together? Do you believe that long-term BYO has an impact on what enterprise deploys and supports? I
think it really has a big impact, right? Consumers are choosing various devices, and no longer are enterprises, enterprise IT department would love to have a homogeneous device platform just to manage once, right? But that's not happening. So I think more and more customers' IT departments are managing applications, and I think Good is really doing the right thing there. And the other thing is user privacy, right? Separating the work data and the consumer experience and the applications, and making a fun device that is also secure for business. So we're working on both sides to make that happen. Well, and
we're big fans of the work that Samsung's been doing on the device side. And we announced at Mobile World Congress, actually, we announced together Samsung was going to allow Good to be the first non-Samsung container to be incorporated within Knox. And so I think the teams have been busy working on that. And I think today or this week we announced that we're ready to start collecting customers who want to do early access of that integrated experience. So I think on the back of your badges, there's one of the inserts you have is something you can fill out if your company wants to be considered for a part of that. I say considered because we'd like you to participate, give us lots of feedback. But as we've been kind of working up to this point, you spend a lot of time around the world. I mean, you travel more than practically anybody I know. What's the customer response been? Are we seeing a lot of interest from customers?
Yes, I think there's been almost a pent-up demand. I think it was not an option before, right? By and large, solution partners built great software. Device manufacturers try to make great devices. But in order to have a complete security, end-to-end security, both have to sort of come together. And I think Samsung, Knox, and Good, and our engineers been working, around the clock to make this happen, is really bringing those two components together to make it a complete secure platform, right? Having Knox be able to do root detection and having invoking an action to secure the Good container is something that I think that's truly necessary in today's environment and a BYO environment. We feel that will really convince customers here, and I'm sure there's many customers here right now clamoring to try the early access right now.
Well, you guys are going to be doing office hours, so you'll get to meet with a lot of customers. We absolutely want to hear. We've been hearing from a lot of our customers that there's absolutely a pent-up desire to get more Android devices in. So my hope is when we sit here next year and we look at that picture, we're going to see those lines kind of come together a little bit. So
hopefully we have a customer here.
one last, yeah, sorry, empty chair.
Yes.
One last thing. So we announced earlier this week that we were acquiring Fixmo. And for folks who may not know Fixmo is a company that has co-developed some technology with the Defense Department around integrity services, integrity management. How you ensure a device, stays in a protected state. Is that a fair way of describing it? Mm-hmm. Fixmo is kind of a part of Knox, right?
Yes.
It's also sort of baked in. Where do you see the rest of the stack? How do you see sort of customers looking for additional assurances from the hardware all the way up? What else should we be thinking about?
Well, Fixmo is integrity management is a very critical component of Knox. And along with combined with our trust zone-based integrity manager, it really gives that platform-level security and the checks and the balances. So we're working with your engineers to see how we can use that to really complement what Good Container is doing and hardening that process as well. So making sure that there's always a check to see whether there's a modification in the kernel, modification in the binary, modification in the container,
So if something changes during the runtime,
right,
we can detect it.
Exactly. And then invoke an action if there is some irregularity. Right.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate your guys' support, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Okay, so on with the rest of our day. I think if you look at the broad suite of solutions that we're working on, and you talk to our ecosystem partners, you talk to our customers, it's not very hard to see sort of what our vision is, where we're going, right? We really believe that in a world where we can take the concern around data security and data integrity off the table, where we can provide a flexible platform to enable innovation within any application, that really liberates the organization to be able to pursue some of these bolder strategies. One of the things you may have noticed as we've gone through this morning, and maybe you haven't, I'm trying to thank you, is we have a slightly different look. You may or may not have noticed that the logo looks a little bit different. I think one of the things we're sharing with you today is some of our new corporate branding and sort of corporate UI. I think Good is a very well-known, very trusted brand by some of the world's largest companies. We've had the same interesting icon. I would say the number of good jokes are endless. When you become a good employee, you quickly lose count of the plays on the name. But we wanted a way of sort of signaling kind of a new era for secure mobility and a new era for the company, and kind of the new direction and sort of what we stand for. And so you start to see that across today's materials. You'll see it throughout the rest of the day, and hopefully you'll see a lot more of it coming in the coming weeks.